Hi, this is Rebecca, the blackest sheep of the pasture. Welcome to my channel. In this video, I'm obviously going to be discussing Is Blood Thicker Than Water as the title. And I'm going to be discussing a little bit, giving my opinion about how I feel about the royal family and Meghan Markle and her situation. And also my own experiences with my own family. And why I personally don't think I agree with that notion. So, let's get started. Let's get right into it. Harry left the royal family, as we all know, because of how his wife Meghan Markle was being treated with racism and allegations of them having a relationship with the media and providing them with a lot of detrimental information that is hurt Meghan's image, while uplifting William's wife, Kate. And I personally believe that what Meghan was saying is true. I think it's pretty obvious that there might be some things going on in that family. Family has a really racist history, number one. I mean, come on, let's get real. They colonized everyone and put all of these countries in dire straits. And I don't really know a ton about that family. I'm not going to pretend I do. I haven't done a lot of research because I don't have an interest in that family. I think it's kind of ridiculous how people worship other people that are just people, and they treat them as if they are better than everyone else and high above everyone else because of some self-given title that these people have given themselves. And people fawn over these people and swear that they are like the best thing next to sliced bread, and it's just insane to me. So here's my question to people: do you think that Harry should have stayed and just put up with whatever treatment that he was getting? Do you believe Meghan's allegations? I do. Like I said, just based on the history of the family and what I've heard of how they treated his mother, Diana, the history of that as well, it could be very plausible. And even though with Diana, is obviously wasn't because of racism. It could have been for whatever other reasons. I don't know why. But I heard that they have a relationship with the press there. And I forgot how Meghan explained it, but I can't remember. But it was the exact word that she said, with how they kind of feed off of each other and help each other. The press helps to make the family look better and to help keep the monarchy going and bring people in for tourism and keep this whole facade up that, you know, they're more superior to other people. Anyway, that's how it comes off to me. The whole fact that Harry has to bow to his grandmother is weird to me. I couldn't imagine. Like, I understand respecting your elders, but bowing to your family members, bowing to your that's kind of weird. And I know it's their tradition and it's what they do and that's what they've done for thousands of years, but it doesn't make it, not weird. Family seems kind of cold to me, and it doesn't seem really warm and loving. You don't see a lot of personal pictures of the family together, except for these pictures in the past. But you don't really see pictures of Charles with his grandchildren by Harry. I haven't seen any pictures of Charles with Archie and Lilibeth. I'm not even sure if I've seen pictures of Charles with his other grandchildren. Just being like a normal family. even though there's no such thing as a normal family, but you know what I mean. Just like with love and just a warmth that a lot of families have when you see them. There is no perfect family. Every family has issues and problems. Every person has issues and problems in this world. None of us are perfect. So, of course, our families aren't perfect. But it just still feels like something is off about it. And sometimes I'm kind of inclined to believe what David Icke said about the royal family. If you know anything about David Icke and his claims that he wrote about and spoke about in his lectures and in his books, he speaks of an evil being in that family. And I definitely believe in some kind of evil things going on behind the scenes. Just this, it's kind of hard to explain without coming off like a nut job, I guess. But I guess many people thought that David Icke was a nut job. But this secrecy in that family, and there's a lot that we don't even know. And hopefully one day all of these things will be exposed to people and they will see the truth about everything behind the scenes, what's going on behind that curtain. Meghan also has problems with her family. She obviously is estranged from her father and siblings, and they've gone to the press and sold stories about her, and I understand why she doesn't want to talk to them. I don't think I would want to speak with my family either if they were going and selling stories and going to the press and speaking about me without my consent. I can understand why she cut them off. I also have had issues with my family, and I've had to cut my family off. Sometimes some people are the black sheep of the family. That's true. And I am the black sheep of my family. Honestly, you felt like I was born in the wrong family when I was younger, because I'm like, I don't really fit in with this family. I'm going to talk about myself right now because I don't know a ton of things about the royal family. I'm just using them as kind of, a catalyst to have this discussion, because I don't believe that blood is thicker than water. If your family, I think that's a very toxic message to send to people, that no matter how you're being treated and disrespected by your family, you have to stick by them because it's your blood, and blood is thicker than water. And that's ridiculous for people that are adopted and have foster families and things like that. And because they're not blood, that means that they don't have the same closeness because it's not biological. I just don't agree with that. Sometimes, from my experience, your family can treat you worse than anyone. And I'm not going to come here and sit here and come off all like I'm innocent, like I never did anything to piss my family off, like I never made any mistakes, like I never said anything wrong, like I never been an asshole, because I have. I'm sure my family has some reasons why they don't really like me a lot, just like I have reasons why I don't like them a lot. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Or just don't get along with them. I don't want to, I don't hate them or anything. I just don't understand them. I think a lot of hate came between, let's start out by saying I have 5 siblings. I have 3 brothers and 2 sisters. And I also have a half brother, but I'm not going to include him in this discussion because I didn't find out about him until later in life. But my 2 sisters both had children. Oh, and I'm like the second to the youngest in my family. So my 2 sisters both had teen pregnancies. And I didn't. I didn't have my first child until I was like 30 years old. And I think that they kind of not held that against me, but kind of had some animosity towards me because I had the freedom that they didn't have when they were growing up, when they were teenagers. I got to do what I wanted to do, and I had money because I didn't have any children to support. I had the freedom to just do whatever I wanted to do and go, and just, I didn't have to find babysitter and this and that, and didn't have to worry about raising kids and changing diapers and baby daddies and all this drama. I didn't have to worry about any of that, and I think that they held a little bit of animosity towards me because of that. And I probably did come off like feeling like I was high and mighty. I could admit to my faults, maybe because I didn't make the same choices that they made in life. I just felt different from them. I really don't feel like I fit in with a lot of people in my family. Some of you might be able to relate to that. Do any of you ever feel like you were adopted? Because when I was a kid, I swore I was adopted. I was like, there's no way that I am related to these people. But if I didn't look so much like my mother, I would be questioning. If I didn't look so much like my siblings. Yeah, so it's so much to talk about of what's going on in my family. I don't even think I have enough time to cover it all. But I am going to say that I don't really have a good relationship with them to this day. I only talk to like one of my siblings, and that's the youngest one, my youngest brother. And every now and then we text each other, but we don't even have a really close relationship. My oldest brother, I stopped talking to him this year. I cut him off. I honestly don't know if I'm ever going to talk to him again. So before I get into why I cut him off, I'm going to give you a little bit of history about him and my oldest sister. My oldest two siblings were abused sexually and physically by a man that my mother was dating. And they obviously ended up having a lot of trauma from that, and my sister ended up self-medicating with alcohol, and my brother ended up self-medicating with drugs at a young age. And my brother, he's my half-brother. We have different fathers, her and my sister, and he was sent to a foster home at a young age from the abuse that he suffered. And so he didn't really grow up with us a lot. He wasn't around us a lot. So he was always, we just never really had like a really close relationship that, not as close. My family doesn't really have a close relationship because my mother was mentally ill. And I believe that she was somewhat of a narcissist because of her actions and her behaviors and how she treated her children. And we didn't really grow up with a lot of nurturing and love and all of that. So I think that affected our relationships to this day. The fact that our mother really never gave us, and probably a lot of mothers, like years ago, people, especially black people and poor people, were just trying to survive and just trying to get through life, and did not have access to mental health care. And a lot of, especially back then, a lot of us didn't even really believe in mental health. We would just say, oh, it's religion, or it's the devil, or it's this and that. But we didn't, like, I remember my mom would even say things like schizophrenia was the devil. They were possessed by demons. There was a mentally ill, my great aunt on my grandmother's side, and she was mentally ill. She like kind of lost her mind after having so many children to take care of and not a lot of support. And she just began just talking to herself all the time. I remember my mom would tell me as a child that she was talking to demons, and not that she may be mentally ill and she might have schizophrenia or something. She was just like, oh, she's talking to demons. She's demon possessed. So that's what I learned about mental health when I was growing up, that it was all related to the devil. So there was not a lot of counseling and things like that. And so it had a great impact. And to this day, I believe that's why we're not as close as a lot of families are. Particularly like black families. We don't have the closeness that a lot of them have. Very envious when I see people with close families, because I always wanted that with my family. But it's something that I've came to this conclusion that I'm probably never going to have. I've gone years without talking to my siblings. My brother that I'm talking about, I think we went 15 years without talking to each other. And the reason why we stopped talking was because he was spreading rumors. My brother had a problem with drugs. He was on drugs for years. And one time, like all kinds of drugs. But his drug of choice was that Black China, if you know what I mean. So the blow. And he was on that. And it obviously damaged his brain because of now he's like in his early 50s and he's already having signs of like dementia, like just completely. I was talking to him one day and he didn't even know who I was. He was like, "Who are you?" So yeah, he damaged his brain and obviously gave him some kind of delusion, because I played a song for him that I wrote, and now I'm looking back in hindsight and it's like cringy, but I wrote a song when I was younger. It was called Quickie, and I was just proud of that. I wrote a song. I was so I wrote a lot of songs, and this one I was particularly proud about because of the way the arrangement. I was just like happy, and I thought it was just so it was just clever, and I was like, listen to this song. And I at some point in time I really thought that I was going to be in the radio. I thought I was going to be famous, and I was like, oh, you might as well hear it now. So he listened to the song. He's like, oh, that sounds good, yeah. And I was like, okay, which every one of my family heard the song, mind you. It wasn't just him. Like, my sisters heard it, my other brother, because I was just proud of my art, my music. And after I played the song for him, he ended up telling my family that I was trying to come on to him, which was really disturbing to me. And I remember I was dating this guy at the time. We had been in a relationship for years. Our total relationship was about almost 5 years. And I remember my brother talking about he wanted to fight him and beat him up and stuff. And the guy wasn't even like treating me bad or anything. The guy liked my brother a lot. It was ironic because he liked being around him, wanted to be around him. But my brother wanted to beat him up, wanted to fight him, and was threatening him and all this stuff. And not in his face, but like behind his back, which I thought was strange. So the whole thing rubbed me the wrong way that he was telling people that. Of course it was embarrassing. And I would never flirt with my family members, any of them. That's just weird to me. It's not something that I'm into, and nothing I really ever thought about. So it's just weird that he would say something like that. It made me so upset that I stopped talking to him for 15 years. And back in 2020, fast forwarded, I was reunited with my family because of the pandemic. Then I got reconnected with him, and I thought everything was good. We exchanged numbers and everything was cool. And we were talking on the phone and everything was fine. They live back in Minnesota and I'm in Oregon. So we just talk on the phone and just, catch up on all the lost time for over the years. And, everything was cool. And we talked just about everything. We talked about religion, just whatever, just, like people would say, shooting the shit, I guess. And we would just have talks. And then one day he texted me, and it was one of the most disturbing text messages I ever got in my life. And it's still really hard for me because it was so disrespectful and disturbing. And in the text message, he pretty much told me that he wanted to have sex with me. And it was so disgusting and disturbing. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is my brother. You're supposed to be like my brother, my protector. And it was not, he didn't just even say it. He was just very graphic and vulgar and just disgusting. And I just couldn't believe that this is my brother saying this to me. So I guess blood is thicker than water, huh? Yeah. So after he sent me several text messages, he's like, it wouldn't stop. And I was just like in shock. I'm like, wow. And in a way I felt vindicated because I could show I showed my family the text, because he was going around telling everyone that, years ago that I was trying to hit on him. I played that song. And some people, my sister, like, yeah, she probably did. Like, and my sister, the middle sister that I don't really get along with. I don't really get along with either one of them anymore, but I really never got along with her that much. But she was saying, I had heard through the grapevine, or maybe she even told myself that I probably did it, and that just hurt me a lot. And me and her have been estranged for a long time too. Probably going on most of my adult life now, or half of it. So we were kind of close at one time, me and my sister, but that definitely made me not want to have anything to do with her. The fact that she would side with him and not with me. But I was able to I showed my younger brother the text messages, which he showed to my sister, because I don't think we were talking. And my younger brother actually was talking about like hurting my brother, which actually made me feel good. Not that I wanted to hurt him, but that someone actually in my family cared about something that I was going through. So I know this isn't really about Megan and Harry and it just needed something in the background, right? But it was like I said, the catalyst for this dialogue, for this discussion. So he after he said that to me, I like went off on him, of course, and it was just like, I don't remember what I said verbatim, but I just went off on him and was like, what the fuck is wrong? Are you on drugs? Because he told me I had stopped using, that he was just like on methadone or something, which is still a drug, but he told me he wasn't like using. I was like, what crack are you? Are you smoking crack? Like, seriously, why would you say that to me? It was probably one of the most, actually, I think the most hurtful thing that anyone has ever said to me. I'm like, what? That's ever, yeah. I just couldn't believe that, because, like I said, you expect your brother to be protective of you and not trying to hurt you. And for your older brother to say that about you is just disgusting. And I know he was abused sexually as a child, and that probably has something to do with his convoluted ways of thinking and his mind and perversion. And he has a daughter too, and it made me feel sad for his kid. I'm like, I hope that child isn't going through anything because of his mind, his mental illness. And I don't think he's ever really had any therapy or anything, probably aside from what they made him go through as a child. Maybe there was counseling, but I don't think he's had any as an adult. Well, I know he hasn't had any. So it was just really disturbing. And after that happened, I was like, I don't know if I can ever talk to this dude again. Like, I blocked him. I was like, I don't want to have nothing to do with you. I told him, if I ever see you, I'm just going to slap the shit out of you. If I ever go to a family function or something in the future and you're there. But I wouldn't have nothing to do with him. And this happened probably back in January, I believe. And I haven't spoken with him since then. He tried to call me from a different number, but I knew it was him because of the area code. And I'm just like, dude, there's no coming back from that. I think he apologized, but then after he apologized, he started talking shit again. So I could go on and on and on with stories about this. My oldest sister was talking about coming to visit me, and which I got excited about. I was like, oh yeah, you can have my son's room and he can sleep in my room, and we'll work it out so you don't have to get a hotel or anything. And I was happy, but then she started talking about how she wanted to buy weed. I'm like, so you just want to come to visit me to buy weed? It's not. She was just asking questions about dispensary weed, not like what we can do together and fun, and and I really believe that my older sister is a narcissist because of how she acts and her behavior, and she's a whole nother video. But after she did that, it made me look at her some type of way, because I was just like, you're just coming here to get weed. You're not coming here to visit us. I thought you were coming to see us like your family. And it was just, like I said, I don't even have enough time to go into everything. Have I been perfect in my life? I've said things to my sister that were hurtful in the past. I've done things and I've made mistakes, but I apologize for everything that I've done to her, to hurt her. I've, said, oh, I'm sorry. And when I've done things, I was just drinking and kind of going through a lot of horrible things in my life. But I made sure, even when I came to visit her, because I hadn't spoken to her in a long time when I saw her in 2020 either. So I did apologize to her for everything that I did. I sent her a message even previously to that on Facebook. I'm like, I apologize for everything I've ever done to you. I'm sorry for everything I've done to hurt you in your life, because I want to just start over, clean slate. And I thought when I went to visit her that we were going to be cool and everything was going to be good, but no, it wasn't. Like, we were cool and everything was good. We sat and talked for hours and hours, and we, hung out. And I came to visit her a few times, hung out with her. She met my son for the first time, and everything was. And I thought that we were going to just kind of go back to being, sisters again. But that didn't happen, unfortunately. After I saw she was acting with the whole coming to visit me thing, I kind of was cool on her. Like, I didn't really talk to her as much because I just felt like she was just trying to come out here, not even just to get weed, but just to see what it was like, because she wanted to move out here. She wanted to move away from Minnesota to get away from being around her children, who are now grown now, or her daughter that has children, and away from the drama that her daughter's going through. So a lot of people in my family are extremely manipulative people. Like, I'm sure people in Megan's family are as well, as we can see through them being in the press and the interviews they've given and things like that. But does that mean because that's your family you should stick by them? No, that's like the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And that's why a lot of people stay in abusive situations with their family, because the blood is thicker than water. And some people do it for their children because they want their children. And sometimes I feel bad because my son doesn't grow up around cousins and things like that, because I live in another state and I don't really visit my family that much, and his father's family is in another country. So I think it's a really toxic way to think and go through life. Sometimes, from my experience, my friends that I've had have treated me better in a lot of cases than my family. My family, I've had to deal with my middle sister being obsessed with me and trying to be like me, and even like copying things that I did, taking memories from my childhood. Like, that was me. And I'm like, no, that was me that did that, which is really weird. But there's a lot of mental illness in my family. I have ADHD. I've dealt with depression and anxiety and things like that. So I'm not exempt from it at all. But it was always strange to me how she was always trying to be like me, and even copying my disorder, saying she has ADHD, which she does not have. She has borderline personality disorder, which if anyone knows anything about that, people that have borderline personality disorder, that's what the woman had in Single White Female. They'll try to copy off people and mimic them and just try to be like them and steal their identities, because they really have no identity of their own. For some reason, I don't know all the psychology behind that, because I've never really studied that. I've never gone that deep into psychology. I think I've just done like psychology 101 and 102 or whatever, or maybe it was child development or something. I don't remember, but I never really went through all the mental illnesses and all that stuff like that, because it's not something I really was interested in learning a lot about, honestly. But I know enough about it to know. And I know enough about my sister to know that she doesn't have ADHD. Like, she was always on time for everything. But when it was time for her to move, she would be like preparing months ahead in advance. She was going on a trip somewhere. She'd be preparing months ahead in advance. She would always get her homework done on time. She'd come home and study right away. She would make sure her place was clean out, do all of those things that people with ADHD do not really, that they struggle with doing. We're definitely always late for stuff and always looking for things and always procrastinating, waiting to the last minute to do everything. And it was just weird to me, though. And it's like, how do you have a relationship with someone that's trying to be like you? Like, literally, because she got pulled over by the police one time, and she gave them my name. She said that she was me, which my niece called and told me. And she told the police that, no, that's not her. That's her sister. So it's just that my younger brother, I don't know, he just always been, I think after we lost our mom, which he was probably 12 years old at the time. I think he just kind of like became a cold person after that, and just because he was close to our mom out of all of us, I think he was the closest, being the baby. I think it just turned him into like a cold-hearted person because he just of how he acts. And I think that's what the trauma did to him, of losing a mom at a young age and not having someone to really step in and take over, because my sisters were going through their own things with their children, and I wasn't there. I was in another state, and my brother with his drug problem and just all of this mess going on. I think that it definitely had an effect on him based on some things that he said to me, which I'm not going to discuss right now. In regards to his own child and being a parent and things like that. So I really don't believe that if your family is toxic, you should stick around them. It can bring you down. Sometimes they'll try to bring you down. And I felt like that when I was around my family. When I finally moved away from them to another state, I felt like I could finally flourish and just be my own person. And just do my own thing. Oh, another thing, my sister, I remember I lost weight at one time, and my middle sister, she told everybody I was on crack. I've never done crack a day in my life. And she told people, I did ecstasy. I don't know if that counts, but I never did that. I'm like, what? Because I lost weight, and I did it through like exercise. I was like a vegan. I was walking everywhere, walking from I walked from St. Paul to Minneapolis. If anybody out there knows, I think like that's far. I was walking everywhere. And I was going to the gym, and I lost it. And I was taking diet pills probably too. If you want to count that as a drug, go ahead. Oh, I remember it was back in the day when everybody was on ephedra. I was taking ephedra, the stackers, and they helped me lose a lot of weight. And yeah, she told everybody I was on crack because I smoked weed, which has nothing to do with crack. Yeah, and it was just like, what? And it just been all kind of, that's just an example, but I don't even want to go into every single detail because it's that depressing and sad, a lot of the things I experienced with them, which is why I finally moved away. And like I said, I just kind of had my own family. I got married, which unfortunately that didn't last, because 3 years after that I ended up moving away, or maybe 4 years after getting married. I ended up moving away and separating from my child's father. So I can understand why Harry moved away. Sometimes you have to do that, and why Megan cut herself off from her family, because your family can be so toxic to you sometimes, and they can, especially if there's jealousy in the family, which I think my family has a lot of jealousy towards me. Not because I'm just like this amazing person that's just so great and wonderful and all of this and that. Well, first of all, I'm the youngest girl, so there's always jealousy in that anyway, right? And not only that, I just always had a different personality than my family. I've been more just talented in different ways than a lot of people in my family. I've always had a curiosity in learning different things. I started learning Spanish at a young age. Started doing all these things and traveling at a young age. I was the first person in my family to leave the country and to travel and do things like that. And like I said, I had that freedom to do that. And I've always just been a free spirit and just different from everyone. And sometimes people can be envious of that when you're different, and like, or they can either be envious of it, or they can be they can abhor it, I guess, and feel threatened by it. Not threatened by it, but just, I can't find the right word to say, but just not accepting of your differences. And I've always been, like I said, I write songs. I've been talented in writing songs, and I have talent in creating things, like some art talent. I'm not going to say like I'm, amazing or anything, but I've always been extremely creative. And I think it's a part of my ADHD. My ADHD is almost like, if anyone out there doesn't know about it, it's almost like a curse and a blessing. Having ADHD gives you advantages that other people don't have, and it gives you gifts and talents other people don't have, but you also have a lot of messed up things about you that other people don't have to deal with, like the time management and disorganization and the inability to focus at times. But you can also hyper focus on things that you're extremely interested in. So I've always had that, and I've always just been different. And I think in some ways, and maybe sometimes I probably was arrogant. I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna lie. I did go through a religious phase in my life where I was extremely judgmental. Anyone that's been religious knows about that. And like I said, they probably have some reasons to. But my sister has also done things too. The middle sister has said and done the worst things you can imagine, and said like horrible. But they still like her. I mean, her kid ended up getting shot by the police. Thank God he's still alive. But she ended up like pushing him to do it in a way. She was telling him like, hey, you're too much of a pussy. You're not going to do it. You're not going to do it. She told him to paint the gun black because it was like orange at the tip. It was like a fake gun. And he ended up doing it. And both of her kids are messed up. They're both on drugs. And I never saw her even hug them before. Never seen her hug her kids. She was constantly abusing them. We were always fighting about that because she was constantly berating them and abusing them and doing, and I'm not going to say I'm the perfect parent, like I've done everything right, but I just never seen her do a lot of good. She felt like because she was buying them things and taking them places that was making up for giving them attention and love and affection. Children need affection. They need a lot of love and affection. I remember one day I was hugging on my nephew, which is her son, and I was just giving him like a big hug and squeezing him because I never saw her hug them, and I thought that was weird. I'm like, these kids need love or they're gonna grow up and be maniacs and psychopaths. And I was like hugging him like, oh, you're my teddy bear, just giving him love and affection. And she told people that like I was touching him inappropriate. I'm like, what the that pissed me off so much. I'm like, what? Your mind is so fucked up that giving a kid a hug, like hugging a kid and giving them love, you're gonna equate that to something dirty and disgusting. So that's how fucked up they are. And I honestly don't know if I'm ever going to really have I know I'm not at this point in my life. I'm never going to be close with them, and I don't even know. I won't go out of my way to talk to any of them, except for my younger brother, because he does text me back when I text him, and my niece, my older sister's child. We have a relationship. We talk to each other regularly, and she vents to me about her mother and how she was treated. And we've talked about the dynamics of our family and things like that, and the dysfunctionality of our family. But it's up to us to break the cycle, I guess, and to try to be better parents and hope that our children come out better than we came out. Which is all I want in life, is for my son to come out better than I did. And it's hard sometimes to be a mother when you never even really had a mother there for you, because my mom was just in her own world doing her own thing. She was extremely like into religion a lot, and she was just, that's mattered to her more than anything. The only time my family spent together really was Bible study. We had Bible study every Saturday. But other than that, we never really did. Oh, we would go to the museum and the zoo sometimes, things like that, and the beach. But we never really did a lot of family things together. And just, I don't know. It's really hard to just explain it, but we just never had that closeness, that cohesion that a lot of families have. It's just always been weird, and my oldest sister likes to blame it on my grandparents and say that it's their fault. But I've always been closer to my grandmother than my own mother. I felt like I got more love from my grandmother than my own mother, more affection from my grandmother. And maybe my grandparents, that's what happens sometimes with grandparents. They end up giving their children more affection. I mean, their grandchildren more affection than their children, because they had time to grow and learn and become different people and try to do better. And that was the case. I think maybe my mom and her siblings didn't get a lot of love and affection from them. And I think it could be something that was, it could be like, I don't know if I'm stretching or reaching, a part of like just passed down from like slavery. And the fact that at one point in time, our ancestors couldn't even really take care and spend time with their own children because their children had to work and take care of other people, and they had to work and take care of other people's children. So they couldn't even give the love and attention to their own children that they were giving to other children, because they were always being forced to work and do things and live in this horrible life and horrible conditions and a horrible existence. And I'm not saying that with everyone. I'm saying in some cases, and maybe in my bloodline that was the case. And if anyone knows, the research is coming out that trauma is passed down through DNA. So we're dealing, even though it was 400 years ago or whatever you want to say, or not 400 years ago, hundreds of years ago, we are still dealing with that trauma because it's in our DNA. It's in our bloodline. And things and behaviors are passed down from generation to generation if cycles aren't broken. I don't know where I got the ability to really feel love, because maybe because I didn't get that love and those hugs. That's why I was able to give it to my child now, my nieces and nephews, because I never got it. It was something that I wanted. But I remember the first time I started wanting to take my life was like around 12 years old, because I just didn't feel loved and valued from my own mother, and I didn't really receive a lot of love and attention from her, except for when we were like fighting. That was the only time I really interacted with her at some points. And every now and then we would watch movies together, but we just never really had conversations. She never really talked to me about anything, about my future. Nothing. It was just like about religion all the time, and that probably affected our family dynamic in some ways too. But anyway, I don't want to just keep going on and on, boring people to death about my life and my relationship with my family, because the point of this video is just to show that I don't believe in it. Blood is thicker than water. That's bullshit to me. There's fathers out there that are like raping their children. There's mothers out there beating the hell out of their kids. You know, people doing all kind of mothers selling their children for drugs. You know, trafficking their own children. There's parents out there that just don't really give a shit about their children. They just had them because they were careless and they had a mistake, and it's just like, and they have resentment towards them because they feel like they ruined their lives in some ways. And there's a lot of narcissistic parents out there, and I don't know if they can change. I'm not sure about that, but when people get to a certain age, you kind of just accept that they won't. Especially when you get like over 40. Person hasn't changed by then, you're like, yeah, they're probably going to be like this for the rest of their lives. So if you're in a situation like that, it's hard, because I'm not going to sit out here in front like it's not lonely, not feeling like you're a part of your family. It is. You know, we are like, humans are like herd animals in a way, and we stick with the herd. That's what you do, and that's how people stayed safe. You know, and it takes a village to raise a child, right? So when you're on doing this by yourself, it's hard. And it sucks. Don't get me wrong. There's times where I've been tempted to move back home. And I almost did. In 2020, I really wanted to go back to being around my family again, because there was like wildfires, and then, you know, the pandemic and all of this. And where I live in, I thought we were going to die because the wildfires got so bad in that year in Oregon. And I was like, not just Oregon, on the West Coast. I remember looking at a map, the whole half of the United States was on fire. And I was like, yeah, I'm getting the hell out of here. But when I went back to visit, I was just like, no, I can't do this. And it wasn't just because my family, it's just because I don't like Minnesota that much. So many damn mosquitoes there. I was wondering, were the mosquitoes biting me so much because they can like smell the THC? Were they getting high off of me? Because they were biting the shit out of me. I remember I went to go get my suitcase from the car, right? I know I'm digressing, but just... I was going to go get my suitcase from the car and have some tights. And when I came back in the house, I kid you not, I had like 8 mosquito bites. I was like, oh, they was like, ooh, fresh blood. And I know I probably got a lot of THC in my blood. So yeah, it was because of that, and it was because of I just didn't. I feel more comfortable being on my own sometimes. That's not to say I will never go back and visit again, but when my sister was talking about moving here, I was like, oh hell no, nope. Because I knew that once she moved here, they all want to move here, and I'm like, no, I don't think so. It was kind of like that in Minneapolis. I was the first person in my family to move to Minneapolis, and I loved it. I was so excited. I was like, yay, Minneapolis. This is where Prince is from. Yeah. Like Janet Jackson and Escapade. Minneapolis. So, yeah, it was wonderful and amazing. And I felt free. And then they all moved there, and it just completely changed it. It made me not want to be there anymore just because of how they are. You know, my family, and they're just extremely manipulative. Always just trying to get something. Always trying to scam someone and hustle someone, it feels like. But who needs to be around that? The best thing that a person could do for themselves, and someone like Harry has children of his own now. He has his own family. He has a family. Does it say something in the Bible like when a man's supposed to go off and just be with his family or something like that, and just be with his wife and his kids? Not saying that I completely agree with everything in the Bible, but I'm just saying for all the Christians out there that do believe in everything in the Bible, isn't this what he's supposed to do? Life is too short to be unhappy. If your family makes you unhappy and they make you feel bad and uncomfortable, and they make you feel like you are nothing, and they treat you like you're nothing. I sent the picture of my son to my sister just so she could have a picture of her nephew, and she didn't even say like thank you or nothing. It's like she didn't even care. I'm like, wow, you don't even want a picture of your own nephew? This is insane. It's crazy to me. It was really hurtful. And the way they treat me, sometimes it hurts. But, you know, I just got to do what I got to do and just move on, because life is too short to just be focused on the past and focused on bullshit and how people that don't even deserve to be in your life anyway have treated you and are treating you. So the best thing to do is go out there and make your own family, whether it be being a foster parent or adopting or having your own children or being in a relationship or pets or just your friends, a community or your church or whatever organization you're a part of, something. Sometimes that can be your family. And that if it makes you feel better, makes you feel good, do it. Be around people that want to be around you, that value you. Be around people that respect you and your partner and your children. Don't just be around your family because, quote unquote, blood is thicker than water, or you're supposed to because you all share the same DNA. That doesn't mean shit. That's an old belief and an old idea that people need to let go of. And what I hope is one day your family will learn to treat you better and value you. And that you could learn from whatever mistakes you made, like me and the mistakes I've made in the past with my family and the things I've said that were hurtful to my older sister particularly. I said some things that were hurtful to her. And, but you don't have to put up with it just because they are your family. You don't. And even if you don't want to completely cut yourself off and you want to move away, that's fine. And just see them on occasions. There's nothing wrong with that. But you don't have to be around them and be miserable if they make you feel miserable your whole life. Do what makes you happy. And no one's going to be happy. The people say, oh, Harry looks miserable. The couples fight and people aren't happy 24/7 all the time. And maybe he has resting bitch face. Who knows? But no one's going to walk around in every family. Like, there's no perfect family anyways, number one. That doesn't exist. But there are some families that are more dysfunctional than others. Let's just face it. I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That was a family, right? Yeah. A murderous family. You know, we're not going to compare that family to like some family that just has some squabbles. Like some siblings messing with each other, man, or something I don't do. I'm just trying to find an example of something that might be a little dysfunctional, but not on the level of murderous Texas Chainsaw Massacre family. But just some type of betrayal thing, some things like that, or some alcoholism, which is prevalent in my family, and just chemical dependency and things like that. But I feel like now it's up to me to just have my own family, create my own family. I don't know if I'm gonna have any more children because I'm getting too old, and I don't know if I want to have any more children, which is unfortunate for my son because he won't have any siblings because of that. But if I ever do good in life and have enough money, I would like to adopt a child. That is something I want to do. Not just to give my son a sibling, but to help a child as well, and to have that trifecta, I guess. Because I don't know if I'm still married, number one. I don't know if I'm ever going to do it again. I don't know. It's not like a huge goal of mine. I make myself happy. I don't need people to make me happy. So I feel good with that. But it does feel good to be a part of a family. That does feel good. Having my son probably saved my life. So family is important in some ways. But if it's toxic and they are mistreating you, it's just not worth it. If you're in a situation like that, take care of yourself. Self-care, number one. Do what you can to preserve yourself and your sanity so that you can be the best person you can be, and the best parent you can be, and the best whatever that you want to be, you can be. So on that note, I'm going to end this video with saying blood is not fucking thicker than water. It's not. Everything, what matters is energy. That's what matters. Not the DNA and the blood and all that. It's about energy. It's about respect. It's about understanding. It's about acceptance. It's about forgiveness. It's about love. And if you aren't getting or giving these things, then you're going to have a very toxic situation, and that's not going to be good for you or anyone else around you or this world in general. Happier people, happier world, better place, right? Ideally. So take care of yourself and do what you have to do to survive. And if it means getting out of situations that aren't serving you and being around people that are bringing you down, get the hell away from those people.